Hello, my name is Liz Rowlinson, property journalist. I'm here to do a What Happened Next to one of our couples of TV property hunters. You might have just watched the episode with David and Diane looking for a new home in Almeria, southern Spain, for £150,000. And they're in Spain now. And we're going to hear about what happened when the episode finished. I think you were filming November last year, Dave? Yeah, brilliant. Okay, so to tell us, what were you? Tell us a bit about your background first, and what were you doing? And then you retired, and what was your plan for moving to Spain?
Well, I've been a graphic designer for some years, but we'd always talked about the notion of moving abroad. Mm-hmm. I fancied France, Di fancied Spain, and we'd had a couple of trips out, 2 or 3 weeks at a time, looking around and finding places. But gradually, and also by accident, we came across the Almeria area. We'd been to Spain a couple of times before and driven down the coast. And that was the incentive, that it was warmer. The state of the country in Britain at the time was not something that was we were enjoying. So and I'd retired, so I no longer needed or wanted to work.
Sure, yeah, I can see it. And Diane, what did you used to do?
I was a social worker, so I was 20 years social work, and the majority of that time I was in palliative care, so hospice work, and the latter 6 months I moved home because my mum wasn't very well, so I moved nearer to home. Mm-hmm. And that involved doing hospital discharges with Denbighshire County Council, and I worked with a brilliant team. I loved it, but the show came up and there was lots of changes going on at work, and the decision really was made for me because of the difficulty in trying to get time off. Mm-hmm. And we knew that at some point in the relatively near future we were going to move anyway and do this. So the decision was made for me. So literally I was very lucky in so much as I was able to finish with Denbighshire on the Friday, and then we flew out on the Sunday and filmed on the Monday. So it was very quick for me.
So what made you approach Place in the Sun to be on TV to help you in your property search? I mean, had you done much on your own looking trying to find a property beforehand? Were you desperate, or did you just think, oh, this will be a bit of an adventure?
There was, as David said, we had looked over the years, and we'd looked at a place in Antas, we'd been up to Denia, we'd looked at lots of different places. But more recently, we got back in touch with a friend of ours and found out that he was living over here. And I immediately went, Spain, can we come and visit, sort of thing. And we obviously came over and visited. And then looking around, coming back again, that was in around the March time of 2019. It was I just fell in love with the place again.
But also it coincided with your NEC Place in the Sun exhibition
coming up
in Birmingham. Yeah,
it was booked.
So as soon as I got back, I was like, oh, Place in the Sun, let's have a look at it, because we watch those programs all the time. So it was a case of, right, let's get it booked. And then I said to David, look, they're doing auditions.
No.
Yes. So I said, we might be able to get in it. That would give us loads of help, lots of insight into different things that perhaps we've not known about or looked into. And so I booked it, and then and things happened from there, really.
Despite my best endeavours to put them off, they decided that we might be worth putting it on. So there we go.
And had you watched an episode about Almeria? I mean, what were your, I mean, what was it about? You had a friend there, but what was it about the region that you particularly liked the look of?
Realistically, we knew that we wouldn't be able to afford anything significantly on the coast.
Yeah.
But I wanted to be close to the sea because I love the sea. So for me, I needed to be able to get there within 40 minutes, an hour's drive. But I also, because we come from Wales, we love the hills and the mountains. So it was the sort of the terrain. David absolutely loves the sun, whereas I'm
and they
not.
promised us 320 days a year minimum of sunshine.
Are you counting? Yeah.
I did say, because we've got the sun today, but it's cold. So I did say to him, you have to allow the fact that we can have the sun, but it can still be cold. So, but yeah, so I think this area kind of met all the criteria. And obviously what we found out is that there's quite a lot of Brits out here as well. So although both where we are now, we have 2 Spanish neighbours and a British neighbours. There's a lot of British around, but we're still in, you know, we've still got Spanish around us as well, which is lovely to have that mixture.
Yes.
But I think when you first move out here and you don't speak the language, it's very nice to have people who speak your language to be able to find out where to go, what to do, how to do certain things. And I think from that point of view, joining the social websites, the social media sites and things like that, I found really helpful.
Brilliant. Yeah, because often people say they love Almeria because it's a bit more authentic than the more developed parts of the Andalusia, as you know, Costa del Sol, and as you say, it's more expensive there. So great. So what? How did you find the filming? You know, was it fun? Hard work?
At first, as I said to you in the email, the first morning was quite daunting because we'd arrived late on the Sunday night. So we only had a relatively brief chat with the crew. The following morning, we're stood on a freezing cold beach at Mahaka while they're getting mic'd up. And you're like this because it's like, oh, it's cold. And I'd zoned out. It was like, oh. So the first morning was probably the most difficult because you've got, although you've seen the programs, you have no concept of, if you like, how it actually takes place and the time factor involved in doing all the little stages. But
yeah,
they were all extremely pleasant. They were nice people to work with. So from that point of view, it made us relax by lunchtime.
And I just loved it.
Yeah, a taste for TV.
Absolutely. It was, I would agree with David, it was a little bit daunting because I thought we might get tongue-tied. I thought we might forget things that we were supposed to say, or the way we were supposed to stand, or, you know, things like that they sort of mentioned to you. But what we noticed was after the first day or so of doing everything, we almost felt like, you know, oh, we were born to this.
But also, the thing that kind of took me by surprise was the very first interview that we did. We're chatting to Danny in chatting mode, and all of a sudden she switches on to professional mode, and it's like, and it just catches you out a little bit. So you do tend to stutter into. She'll ask you a question, and as I said to you, what I really wanted to say, but then we're being polite as well, so we don't say things like, "I don't like the beach." Get sand in your shoes. But you go, oh yeah, yes, it's lovely. Which is rather stupid, really, but there you go.
Well, it comes, anyone who's watched it, it comes across very, very positively, clearly. So, but you didn't end up buying one of the properties on the show, did you? And as viewers will have seen, Diane was rather keen on one, and David, you were keen on another. So that was the crux of it, wasn't it?
It was, and to be fair, I think that there was a couple of there was only one property that I really didn't like, and that was the really old farmhouse one.
It was where I got concussed.
Yeah, the other properties, they were very nice, but the one that I liked was just it was in the area that I liked, and it was a beautiful terrace looking out over the mountains. But David wasn't keen on the layout of the house, and I could understand that. The other property that David liked, I think if that had been in like the classic, if that had been in that area, the area that I liked, we probably would have gone for that, because I could live with that house. I just didn't, the area didn't do it for me.
We were saying last night, how many times do you hear this? Well, if I could have had that property in that location, I would have bought it. And
it's very true. But so you're in, viewers might be thinking, what's the piggery? You're in your new property. And tell us, is that near your target? Is it in your dream area? Was it, tell us how you found it, when? I mean, what happened? You flew home from the TV filming, and what did you do?
We obviously had friends, and they'd contacted us and said the piggery's coming up for sale type thing, and they said it's just down the road from us, and it sounds great because you've got a potential to run a B&B. The restaurant has been opened, it's closed now. The B&B was closed as well, but they said, you know, you've got the opportunities there. The key things that David and I had thought about was David didn't want to be too overlooked. He wanted to feel that he had space around him, and the same with me in that respect. So the piggery is literally within walking distance of the property that I loved, and the other properties that we looked at, but we're a part of a little hamlet of 5 houses.
But we're only about 500 yards away from Los Carrascos, which is a much bigger community. But you know, we have views. There's olive groves all around in front of us, and behind us there's a hill which is ours apparently, or part of it is ours. There's nothing not to like.
And with it being an old farmhouse, David got the farmhouse bit that he wanted. But with the piggery, it's a barn that's been converted basically, but it's absolutely beautiful. And so I'd kind of got my sort of craft area, I'd like to think of it as. So we kind of, it met a lot of the criteria that we were looking for, and gave us that freedom really, because we weren't overlooked on everywhere by neighbours, because the piggery is slightly separate to the house, so we've got beautiful views, and we can just literally step out and go up to the hillside from the piggery, and it's stunning. It's just beautiful out here, it really is.
Wow. It's how many bedrooms?
There's 5 bedrooms in the farmhouse. You could actually have the piggery as a holiday home. It's got showers, there's lavatory, there's a kitchen area, you know, and you could put a couple of beds in without a problem.
Yeah, and
we've done that because
it's got a log burner as well, and there's Wi-Fi to come through to it. You know, all mod cons,
which we've just sorted.
Brilliant. And what are your plans for it?
I told you, going to start an over 60s lap dancing club.
We have, because of Brexit, because of COVID, we ended up, we literally bought the place, and then we came over, had a week or so here, and then we went back to the UK to get some things sorted, and got caught up in the lockdown. So we ended up staying in the UK.
Right.
Lots of family things happened in the UK, and then we came back out in the July as soon as we could, because we needed to get our residencia sorted out.
Yes.
So practical side of things started to kick in then, because obviously with Brexit coming up, we were getting quite anxious that we hadn't got everything in place, and it always takes longer than you think. So we came back in the July. We got here for the 23rd. We came via France, and we'd only come over for 2 weeks to get our padron set up, which is to prove that you've got a property
census, you live here. Yeah.
And then they started messing about with the flights and cancelling flights. So we didn't want to go back to the UK and not be able to come back to Spain, because we needed to get things moving here. So we stayed here. So we ended up staying here all of August and part of September. And then in September, because my cats were still over in the UK, and I was starting then to worry that I needed to get them over before Brexit, we did a flying visit back. So we drove back. We did 2 weeks quarantine, and then a week of running around trying to get the cats sorted out, last minute bits, and then drove back to Spain, and that was it really then. So we got back in October, so the very beginning of October, and so it's kind of been a bit disjointed, our experience, because of the situation, but it's a unique, nobody could have predicted.
Well, it's amazing what you've achieved, to be quite honest. You've moved over, you've changed, you've emigrated in a pandemic, and I think it's amazing you've done that, because a few people who were looking at properties the same time as you haven't managed to do that, that we've been talking to. So I mean, well done, really. I mean, just on the financial nitty gritty, was it within budget? Did you have to, how much did you have to pay on top to sort of, for purchase costs and things like that?
We had a budget of around £150,000, and I was starting to worry that what we were looking for in the area that we wanted, it was becoming out of reach. However, when the piggery came up, we actually agreed a price of around, it was €155,000, but that came in, I think, around about £135,000. And then we had our costs on top, which are about 10 to 12%. So it came in around our £150,000 budget.
Right.
But we negotiated within that we kept like some of the tables and the chairs that they'd had in the restaurant. They had a big sale before we came out, but anything that was left, we had it in the purchase price. So we didn't have to buy beds, we didn't have to buy some bedding, the tables, the chairs, the crockery, the pots and pans, all that thing, those sorts of things were here. So that helped us to be able to sort of move out and stay relatively quickly, with just maybe a load or two coming out from the UK. We're a bit of hoarders, so we've still got some stuff to come out, but it's just as and when. So
did you have to sell your house in Wales first?
We were really lucky. Yeah, we were really lucky that we do have a rental property, so we were able to raise money between putting money on our mortgage and raising money within the property that we had. So we were able to do that without selling. However, in order for us to carry on living, it'd be really helpful to sell our property.
The other thing, sorry, excuse me. Excuse me. The other thing that when you're talking about the finances is, you think of the house price, you think of the solicitor fees, etc. on top. What you also have to take into account is the cost of residency. You have to pay everything. You have the padron, you have to pay the residency, your driving license, To get a Spanish driving license, you have to pay. You have to have a medical first. You have to pay for that. And although they're only, if you like, relatively small things, 60 euros here per person, 60 euro, it all starts to mount up. And I think you do have to kind of make people aware of, it's not just the price of the house and your 10%. No. There's a lot of other little incidentals that you'll find. Against that, I mean, there are things like what we would call council tax is very small here. Silly things like if you pay your car tax at the beginning of the year in full, you get 10% discount. Bits and pieces like that.
So our council tax here, for the want of the same word, is less than 120 euros for the year. And that includes, because we have the farmhouse, we've got the piggery, we have land at the back that's got an above ground pool on it, or that did have a above ground pool on it, and we've got a strip of land with some olive trees and a little garage on it. So you pay so much on each piece of that land, but it still only comes to less than 120 euros for the year. And we were paying, well, I was living in at home and I'm paying sort of £130 or something, £140 or whatever a month for council tax.
Yeah. And so here, it's huge. Where we have the strip of land, which is quite a significant strip, and we've got olives and figs and pomegranates and all sorts on it. They just look and go, oh, well, it's not worth bothering to put a tax on that. So we paid something like, was it 95 euros for the house and another 13 or something like that for the piggery? Nothing.
It's relatively low, and because it's classed as rural land, it's quite a low. But then the land that we have on the top where we had a pool, the weather's attacked that, so we don't have a pool anymore.
We had a 30 by 20 foot swimming pool. We now have.
I saw that on Google Maps actually. Yes.
We had the storms, and because the thing had been drained to be cleaned, it was just no pressure. It just washed out.
Yeah, it was lowering the apparently we think now that because we hadn't refilled the pool up and kept it topped up, because we hadn't used it, it had started to evaporate. And so obviously the wind had caught some of the top of the panels, and then so we have no pool now.
Do you want a pool or not?
I think we'll look at a smaller pool, definitely. I think we'll look at a pool.
Yeah.
Yes. I think in the summer month, you need one. So July and August, you can literally be sat at your table or chair, on your chair, and you perspire without moving.
40 to 50 degrees.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is rather nice. But some
well,
people
you clearly like the sun, but and yeah.
So from that point of view, I would have liked a pool, but I think we managed without, and if we needed to, we could do that again. It's a luxury, really, but it would be nice to have something that you can dip in or just to cool down, because it does get hot.
The other thing in talking about the costs is obviously insurance.
Yeah.
Now you have to have bars on windows to comply with the insurance requirements.
Oh, do you? Is that why everyone has bars on their windows, even in?
Yeah. And the other thing is, we now, because of the pool, have having to negotiate with the insurance company as to whether or not we can get any money back. So it's all happening for us.
Yeah.
Never a dull moment.
How are you spending your time? Because clearly you a few bits of paperwork, but I mean, you must really, I mean, things are quite bad in Wales, COVID wise, as they are, in many parts of the UK right now. You must be quite glad to be where you are right now. Would that be true?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, we've had a couple of bits of lockdown within our little area, and you can't go from Almeria to Murcia and things like that. But overall, people are very much more sensible over here. You don't get that. I'm not wearing a mask. If they're supposed to wear a mask, they wear masks.
There's a few, but generally speaking, everybody just wants to keep everybody else safe. And I think that's the difference. So for us, if we go outside the house, then you wear a mask. So if we go out to the shops, or even just for a walk, then you wear a mask. If you go in the car and there's just the two of us, we're fine. But as soon as we get out of the car, we put our masks on. If I go to a mosaic class with a friend, because we're not in the same household, we both wear masks when we're driving. But it's just, you do that because it's what you're supposed to do and you've been asked to do, and it's your responsibility to support and keep other people safe and yourself safe, because we don't want to have that illness. And I think the mayor has been brilliant at keeping us up to date with how many occurrences of COVID are in the area, the recovery rate, and where we're up to now. So I think we felt involved in the process of what's happening in our area, and that's a responsibility that you take on board as well.
Yeah.
I think the Arbalest area, and I'm sure probably a lot of, or most other areas where they're localized, it's very much more a community-based living than perhaps it is in the UK. It's a nice friendliness about everything.
I would actually agree with that, but I would say that where we lived in Henflon was a fantastic community, and they are doing equally as much within the community to support people. My stepfather's still there, and people have been doing shopping for him and things like that. So I think there are places within, I'll use Wales as the example, there's places within Wales that have been very supportive, especially the villages. I think it's probably what we see as the bigger cities where people appear to be flouting, which isn't helpful.
Sure, yeah. It's just wonderful to hear you say you've been to a mosaic class. I mean, the very fact that you've been able to still do that. I know that, again, to use some other property hunters I've been talking to, they've made the move like you, but they're in France, and they haven't been able to do all these wonderful community things, which is the whole point of their move this year. So it's been not such a positive experience, but clearly you've managed to get a feel for that already, and you must feel that clearly there's a lot you can still, it will be even better when restrictions ease for you, but you've managed to do a certain amount.
Yeah, absolutely. I found the class straight away, and I was going with a neighbour as well, but she went back to the UK, so I carried on going. And then you're right, we did get interrupted, so we were able to have so many classes, and then we had to stop for around about 2 or 3 weeks. But we've been able to go for the last 3 weeks. We're back on track, and I go every Tuesday. We have limits. We have to wear our masks. We sit no more than 6 to a table, but it's usually around 3 or 4 to a table. And again, I think the fact that we are kind of respectful of each other, that's helped. But we've been so lucky that we have been able to. It stopped because we weren't allowed to travel with outside our areas. So the class that I go to is in Almanzora, which is out of our area. So that's why it stopped. I was taking Caddy, our new rescue dog, to training classes on a Sunday morning. Now that was in our area, but with everything that was going on, there was limited places, and we decided that I'd rather have a lie-in. So we've given that a rest as well at the moment, but there's plenty of things going on, and we've been lucky, like you said. If people haven't been able to do things, we've just been really lucky. And I know I'm starting a sewing class coming up in a couple of weeks' time. And then I'm looking to start doing craft classes here at some point in the very near future. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll still be able to keep our community going.
The other thing is, though, and it's a big part of it, sunshine. It lifts your mood. Even when it's cold,
Yes.
but it's sunny, you feel much happier than being, oh God, it's cold, and it's dark, and it's miserable. And we've noticed, even though it's the winter time, it's not getting sun to go twilight and dusk till 6 o'clock-ish, 6:30.
Half 6.
Not 3:30, 4 o'clock, as in the UK.
Yeah.
So again, you don't feel as though you've just been shrouded in. It's not that claustrophobic.
That was a huge difference for me, actually. I found that the dark nights really affected my mood and how I felt. And it was only recently when I was talking with my brother and things and saying, actually, it's not going dark here till sort of 6:15, 6:30. And then I realized, actually, when I was at work, when I was working at the hospice in Wrexham, it was 4 o'clock and it was black outside. And then I, carried on working and then had to drive home.
But it was also driving to work in the dark, coming home in the dark, having spent all day in artificial light.
So that's
there'll be a lot of people very envious of you sitting there. I can't see the sunlight, but it's raining here in the UK on a grim Monday morning, and I think you're selling the dream, even if it is a somewhat restricted one. For David, what have you been doing while Diane's been doing her mosaic, etc.? I get the impression you're just lying in the sun.
No. I've been given jobs and chores to do.
Yeah.
So I haven't actually got around to doing most of the things I wanted to do, writing and music and things, but it'll come in time. It's just pottering about, clearing stuff, weeding, doing, it's just the everyday things, shopping, etc., while she's enjoying herself.
We honestly don't know where the time goes. By the time we've got up and taken the dog out, come back, had a cup of tea, we sit out, and we've sat out in the courtyard in the sun for breakfast, and we've just said, how lucky are we? And then David, he's understated, he's done loads in the garden, he's cleared the patch of land that we had. There's lots of things. I mean, it's quite dusty in this area, so you could be forever dusting. Not my forte. So it gets done, but it's not something that I'm too worried about. And I've spoken to other people out here, and they've said exactly the same. It's, if you wanted to have a completely dust-free house, you'd have to be cleaning it from morning till night. But the time, you've got to remember that most shops do close at 2 o'clock. So, and office buildings and things like that. So you've got to be aware of your timings. So we've been caught out a couple of times. And the thing that I love is that most shops here are closed on a Sunday. So it gives the family day back. And that, I think,
it's only really down at the coast where the tourism takes place that they open on a Sunday and the markets are there.
So you can get Sunday lunch here.
But we did get caught the first Sunday we were here. Well, just about to get some milk and some. It's shut.
But there are English markets, and you can, there are garages that are open and things like that. But I love the fact that they're not open, and that gives everybody the opportunity to have family time.
The other thing here is the roads. You have these magnificent stretches of roads, very little traffic on them, not like trying to go up and down the M6, where there's potholes everywhere, roadworks everywhere. You just drive, and it's a pleasure.
It is lovely.
Has there been anything that you've had any sort of nasty surprises, sort of about life? It sounds like life in Spain has really not that, it hasn't really disappointed you in any major way, all things considered. It's been even better than you perhaps thought.
I think as David alluded to earlier, when you first move over, it's things like cars. You think about a car, they're quite expensive over here. So if you're going to buy a car over here, you need to allow for the fact that, like I wouldn't spend more than like £5,000 or £6,000 on a car, and that was expensive to me. But over here, it was nearer 9,000 to get something, you know, reasonable, that from a garage. I'm not saying you can't go on websites and pick up things, but again, we didn't know what we were doing, and I think I prefer to go to somewhere local and know that we've got somewhere we could go back to.
I think the difference is that over here in Spain, you don't have as many company cars. People don't get issued with company cars, so consequently there isn't the second-hand market. So what does get sold is the residual price is much higher than the UK, where there's a much greater turnover. The other thing is, if you bring your British car over, you have to have I can't think what it's called, matriculation, which is expensive.
Right.
So
they will cane you always round if you're not careful.
So I think that was one thing that we probably hadn't thought of in any great detail. And then there's little things like we went to the local supermarket at Christmas, and Quality Street, the boxes that you get back in the UK for like £4 were like €8 here. Mince pies were €5.50 for 6.
Morrison's were selling them for 90p.
Yeah. So there were little things, but then we found.
So you next to your mince pies.
I got some sent over. But then we found a English supermarket that does them for €2. So again, it's learning. You learn and find things and find certain shops and things like that. So we're still every day we learn, but we don't go out every day either. So we're just happy to be at home.
But also, you know, one or two other people that we've spoken to who've been here for a couple of years or so have all said, don't go rushing into doing things. Just see how the year pans out, because different times of year, different things happen. You can get caught out too easily by rushing ahead. Oh, we need to do this, we need to do that. No, you don't. There's another day tomorrow, another day after that.
Manana, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing is heating. You know, people say, oh, you don't need it because it's hot, and your perception is that it's hot all the time. It's actually is cold in the winter. And
this though is from what we've been told, this is the coldest winter they've had for the number of years.
But not last year, not last November, but the November before, when we came out filming, we came and saw our friends. We met up with them, and they were in their puffer jackets and hats and scarves, and of course we were in, like, you know, shorts and t-shirts because it wasn't cold to us, and we did chuckle at them. This year I've got my hat, you know, and we do put our puffer jacket or jackets on, because you do, from the summer to the winter here, you do feel, and whereas at home you've got your central heating and you're all set up, out here we don't have any heating in the farmhouse at all, apart from a portable gas heater that we bought. So again, it's looking at what's the best heating to put in there, and rather than rushing out, we're trying to look at what's going to be the best heating and when. So it is takes
There's
time.
other things. I mean, we're not on mains sewage, we're not on mains gas, so you've got gas tanks for everything. So you've got to be careful that you've always got at least something that you can cannibalize from your hot water to your heating or to your cooking or whatever. There's always at least one. In fairness, the lorry comes around every Thursday. You know, it's like the bread man comes around every day. There are things you just get used to, but are different to the UK. You know, the UK, you turn the gas on, the gas comes on. No, not over here.
But again, you know, costs are electric is relatively expensive over here, so you are wary about how much you spend. Water tends to be not too bad, but you wouldn't go wasting it because we're in a desert area. So, you know, again, it's about being respectful of resources and the environment. But you don't have your heating on as much because in all summer for probably 8 months or so, you don't need any heating at all. If anything, you've got fans on to try and cool things down. So it works. It just generally feels a nicer environment. Like you said, you wake up in the morning, the sun's there, blue skies most of the time. I think we had a little bit of rain, and we were like, oh wow,
what's this? There's stuff falling out of the sky.
So, but it sounds like you've had it's you know, you've got so many things to look forward to as life opens up again this spring, summer. It sounds like it's probably going to be maybe faster for you than here. So thank you so much, and I really hope that we can catch up on about your plans to whatever you do. You start making your olive oil, your lap dancing club, whatever your joke might do.
Groups.
That was only a rumour. No notice of.
So thank you so much, both of you. It's been really lovely to hear that life has been sort of such an improvement, really, and you've moved to Spain before the Brexit deadline. It's all managed to happen for you. So good luck.
Thank you. Thank you
Thanks
very much
again, both of you.
Take care.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.